Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and first and foremost, before I start this video, I really wanted to thank everyone who has contributed on patreon.com. I just released my campaign on patreon.com, and I see that we are up to $605 per month and 50 cents if you want to get technical. I think that's really awesome because already we're just about to hit how much it costs to purchase a smartphone. And this makes me really happy because we're about to come into Mobile World Congress, and this will help me purchase a device. Of course, there's going to be a lot of devices coming out. So again, thank you patrons who are contributing on patreon.com. You have just helped me purchase my newest device. So speaking of MWC, some people think we're going to be seeing the Xperia Z4 released there, and I really don't think so. I think it's going to be released at its own independent event later on sometime, not exactly sure when. But we're hearing rumors of what the Xperia Z4 is supposed to look like, such as being about the same size, 5.2-inch display, probably Quad HD, having a Snapdragon 810 SoC inside of it, 3 gigabytes of RAM, maybe a 20.7 megapixel camera, all of that stuff that we've been hearing floating around about the internet. But what we do have right now from Sony is still the Xperia Z3, and I had a chance to play with it. And I really wanted to take a chance to play with this device because I really did not like the Xperia Z2 very much. There was just something about it. I ended up having a couple of issues with it. So I wanted to play with the Z3, give it a chance and see if I could change my mind about this series right now because I really wasn't so convinced. And I have to say that I do like the Xperia Z3 a lot more than the Z2. So what I want to do right now is to talk about these essential differences between these two devices. Hopefully this can help you decide if this is a worthy upgrade or not. It is a very small upgrade, but just starting with the way that this device looks, the way that it feels in hand, I have really enjoyed it over the Xperia Z2. So let's go ahead and take a look at those differences. So the first obvious difference between both of these devices is the appearance. Holding the Xperia Z3, this is a very nice rounded device. It is thinner. It is smaller in every way. So if we hold it up to the Xperia Z2, we can see that the Z2 is just a hair wider, and the Z2 is also thicker as well. But really, what makes the biggest difference is that rounded feel. Once you go and you hold the thinner, lighter Xperia Z3, and you observe those corners, when you go back to the Z2, it feels kind of clumsy, kind of boxy. One thing that I always picked about on the Xperia Z2 is that it has this plastic part here. We've got this aluminum frame, and then we've got these plastic accents. And depending on the color of the device that you have, if you put this in your pocket, I noticed that after time, my jeans, the dye of my jeans, started to wear off and stain a little bit on this plastic part. So we don't have this plastic part anymore on the Xperia Z3. What is plastic on the Xperia Z3 are these bumpers. We've got this nice aluminum frame, and then we've got these plastic bumpers. It's supposedly supposed to help with drops, not shattering the display. Some people really don't like these plastic bumpers, but I don't mind them at all. There is one reason to appreciate this plastic frame is it kind of acted as a lip. So on the back here, we do have this plastic that's sticking up ever so slightly. So when I would put the device down on the table, the glass wasn't touching directly down on that table, so it wouldn't get all scratched up. That's something that I am noticing with the Xperia Z3 is that the back is scratched pretty badly already. I don't know if I can pick up any of those scratches on camera, but we can see one right here in the reflection. So while this has a little bit of an annoying lip here, it does help it with not getting as scratched as this poor guy has. And also I've noticed that this device, since it does sit flat on the glass, it just slides off of just about everything. It can be sitting on a flat surface and I will turn around and see it on the floor. I am afraid that this thing is going to fall and break within just a couple of months of using it. This is something that's terrifying to me, so I will get a case. So the advantage of having this little plastic lip here is that it's not as easy to fall off of things. It will fall off of a chair arm because it's curved, but it's not going to fall off of a flat table. We do have a little bit of this plastic lip here to create some friction. So now let's take a look around both of these devices. Let's start with the front. We've got the front-facing cameras in the same spot on both of these devices. We've got these smaller grills here. This is the receiver as well as a speaker. This is another speaker as well as a microphone here. Whereas what we have on the Xperia Z2 is the microphone here on the bottom and the speaker is right here. And then we've got the receiver slash speaker right here as well. We have our notification LED underneath the grill here, whereas on the Xperia Z2 it's right there. Now looking at the top, we have a microphone here. There's the microphone right there, standard headphone jacks. On the left-hand side, it's a little bit different. I like that the flaps are a little bit cleaner. They're smaller feeling, not as flippy-floppy. So on the Z3, we just have the micro USB port. And here we have the micro USB port and a place to put the SIM card. We have the place for the magnetic charging dock. We still have a place to thread a lanyard through on both of these. Then on the bottom, I already showed you that this is a microphone instead of the speaker. Then on the right side, we have the dedicated camera key in the same spot. Same place for the volume rocker. I do like that it's a little bit bigger on the Xperia Z3. It's a better distinction so I can figure out which is up and which is down. We've got the power button and another flap here. So under here we have the micro SD card, same thing, micro SD card on the Xperia Z3. And on this side we also have a nano SIM card tray, whereas on the Xperia Z2 it's a micro SIM, but we have it on the other side. Then if we go on the back, we can see that we've got our 20.7 megapixel camera, both the same sensor here. We've got that same kind of weak flash on both of them. We will talk a little bit more about the cameras later on. We've got our little symbol for the NFC, and that is it. The next, maybe not so obvious, but essential difference are the displays. They are both 5.2 inches, both 1080p, both have the exact same pixel density. But what we have with the Xperia Z3 is a much brighter display than what we have with the Xperia Z2. As a result of it being brighter though, it is quite bluish in appearance. The whites are really blue. Looking at the color temperature of the Xperia Z3, it's just off the charts. Now I do keep in mind that we have the ability to go underneath the white balance setting and tweak this on both of these devices actually. And what I noticed with the Xperia Z3, unfortunately, is that compensating the red and the green to try to offset that really bluish look, it's not enough to make it look neutral. Whereas at least with the Xperia Z2, you can tweak those sliders the same way, and I can get it to have a really nice neutral appearance. So I think that that's a little bit unfortunate. Also, when you adjust these sliders, the brightness of the display goes down, so when you compensate the red and the green, it's not as bluish anymore, but the display is also not as bright either. Another effect of this is that the contrast ratio falls as well. So while I like that I can adjust the sliders on the Xperia Z2 and get it to look neutral, when I do that, it does make the display more dim and affects the contrast ratio on this device as well. It's the same thing for both of them. At general glance, I have to say that once I at least compensate red and green a little bit, I like the way that the Xperia Z3 display looks better. I noticed that the gamut of the displays, or the range of colors that these displays are able to show, is a little bit different. The gamut is wider on the Xperia Z2, especially in the yellows and the greens, where the gamut is not as wide in the yellows and the greens on the Xperia Z3. I end up liking that because when I look at the yellows, such as on Mickey's feet on the Xperia Z2, it's really, really oversaturated, where it looks a lot more tame on the Xperia Z3. Another color difference that really stands out between these two devices are the greens. We have more yellowish looking greens on the Xperia Z2, where the greens are really going more towards the cyan. Now, if we want to change the color game, we can go underneath settings. You can go underneath display, and both of these have the same setting here. So underneath image enhancement, we have a couple of choices. We have off, X reality for mobile, and super vivid mode. So these modes here don't apply underneath the launcher and around the general UI of the phone. They matter underneath things like the picture gallery or underneath video like YouTube or onboard video on the phone or even on Netflix. So when looking at measurements from both of these, what I can see that the super vivid mode does is it oversaturates the colors. It really oversaturates the reds, the blues, the yellows, even the cyans. And then I see that it takes the greens and it really skews them towards what is emerald. And then on top of it, Sony adds an S-curve, so they mess around with the gamma to make the display pop more, to have a contrasty effect. So in shadow parts of an image, it's going to boost the shadows, make them darker, and then in the highlights of an image, it's going to make them a little bit lighter as well. So it gives it a punchy type of a contrast effect. So on some things, this super vivid mode is going to be really catchy to the eye, and on other things, it's going to look super gaudy. So here we have off normal mode, Pay attention to these blues and especially the colors that are on these doors here. Super vivid mode. I give it a second here. And see that color change? That's insane. It really pops. For some things, again, this looks nice, and other things, it's just a no-no in terms of looking natural. But what they've done with this display here is not to go for color accuracy. It's more for an effect. So don't expect color accuracy with this display whatsoever. Let's go ahead and go back and show you what it looks like when it's sane again. I like doing this, sometimes just going through the photos and seeing how different it looks. So the super vivid mode effect really looks about the same on both of these devices. Really the only thing that pops out is that this display looks a little bit brighter. And because it's brighter, it does catch my attention more. So the effect on both of these really is relatively the same. Then before I forget, there's also the X reality mode, which essentially is going to add some saturation, and then it's also going to make images look more sharp. It's going to add some type of a sharpening X reality algorithm that Sony implements. Both the Z3 and the Z2 virtually look the same for this mode as well. So it looks like both of these modes are implemented the same way, or at least very close to it. Now, just to talk a little bit about battery life here, we have a 3,100 milliamp hour battery inside of the Z3 and a 3,200 milliamp hour battery inside of the Z2, so it's a little bit smaller here on the Z3. And I hear people saying that, oh yeah, the Z3 battery life is a lot better than the Z2, or I hear others saying, yeah, it's about the same actually, considering this has a brighter display. And in practical use for myself, I am a very heavy user. I get around 5 hours of on-screen time, and it does last me through the day. So virtually, I felt like the battery life was the same for me. Now, battery life is something that can be quite subjective depending on how you use it. Some people say with these phones that they get 10 hours of on-screen time. I don't know how those people do it. But for someone who is on LTE, on Wi-Fi, who watches a lot of YouTube videos, who watches Netflix, who uses this as a mobile office, on and on all day long, with the brightness a little over half, this is what I am seeing, is about 5 hours of on-screen time. Sometimes I'll hit 6 hours of on-screen time, but usually not too much more than that as a heavy user. So just that's all to say that I noticed that both of these seem very, very similar in battery life. Now, of course, if you want to get a hold on better battery life, you do have an option underneath both of these for power management. You've got the Ultra Stamina mode, which really disables most things and only keeps a couple of things active. Or you could use their Legacy type Stamina mode, which is going to turn off your mobile data and your Wi-Fi when the display is off, except for a couple of apps you can leave as an exception, although you still are able to get text messages and phone calls. Now this mode I have found to be really pointless for myself because my phone screen is pretty much on all the time. So there's no time really where the device is going to have a chance to power down the Wi-Fi or mobile data. But for those of you who are not insane people who use your phone as a mobile office to do pretty much all of your work, this will probably be quite helpful to you. Now moving on to talk about the differences with the cameras. Both of these are a 20.7 megapixel camera, but it's debatable as to whether the sensor is the same or not. I see that it's the IMX220 for both of these, but I think that this one might be the IMX200 and this one might be the IMX220. Either way, spec-wise, I see that this is different in that it has a 25mm wider angle lens. This is 27mm. So you can fit more in the image with the Xperia Z3. And also the Xperia Z3 has a higher ISO sensitivity of 12,800. It works for very low light shots. Now this low light setting can be accessed a number of ways. One is underneath the Superior Auto mode. So you can get a max of 12,800 ISO. Or if you go underneath the manual mode here, you can go underneath your scene selection and you can hit high sensitivity. So I was able to see if I could force the high ISO. If I go underneath here, I say details. If I look at the ISO value, it definitely is 12,800. So you can access this higher value. It is accessed automatically, but it can be accessed underneath the manual mode and also underneath the Superior Auto. If you try to change the ISO setting yourself, If you go underneath here, you see that you only can get up to 3200, so it really is an automatic thing to hit those higher ISOs. If we want to contrast with the Xperia Z2 a little bit, you can see that the highest ISO value we can hit is 6400. This is going to be for either the superior auto mode or underneath the manual mode. I did the same little test here. And if we want to mess with the ISO ourselves, we can only get up to 3200 again, so that is the same between both of these devices. Now that we've hit Android 4.4.4 KitKat on both of these, I see that the camera interface is the same. We have all the same features. We did see some new settings underneath the camera come with the Xperia Z3, especially AR fun. We have it on the Z2 now as well. But it's fun to sit and film something and chuck things like bombs and what looks kind of like poop or ice cream, can't really tell. Some fruit as well. So that does bring some fun entertainment. We've also got a multi-viewfinder mode that we can use with 2 different Xperia phones, 3 different Xperia phones. I don't really know who's going to use this to connect a bunch of Xperia devices together and run around with their viewfinders showing different things on each display. Could be fun, but that's not really something I think that I would be using. You can see you can touch right here, and you can add another device. But that just seems like a gimmicky thing that's fanfare for Sony devices. Then on both devices we have a feature that is called Face In. You can see I have my face here. I can make this bigger, larger, just filming my subject and filming myself at the same time. And the last new thing I've seen is sound photo. Take photos with background sound, birds chirping, singing, etc. Oh, alright then. So I guess it's taking my photo now and recording my voice. So just some new fun features. Everything else looks exactly the same on both interfaces. An issue that I had with the Xperia Z2 before was overheating when filming with 4K video, even overheating when filming just 1080p video over time. I was having a lot of problems with it. Since then it has been updated, and I do see that while on both of these devices I do get this annoying, if the device temperature rises, the app may close during use. So I get this annoying notification on both of these, and I will get a little heat symbol that tells me, oh yeah, your device is heating up, but I have yet to see either of these shut down. I filmed a 4K test video for over 10 minutes and neither of these shut down during that time period, although interestingly enough, the Xperia Z3 heated up first. I was given a warning of overheating on the Xperia Z3 before the Xperia Z2. Maybe that has something to do with the newer, thinner design of the device and heat dissipation not being as good. But both of these devices were able to handle filming 4K video for a prolonged period of time and didn't have trouble with actually shutting down. Yes, I got warned, but they did not shut down. Now to talk a little bit about the differences in picture quality, I took both of these devices out and about and took pictures in nice broad daylight, a nice sunny day. And in general, I found it a little bit hard to discern a real difference between the images. Sometimes I did see that the Xperia Z3 favored a more cool white balance over the Xperia Z2. And of course, we have a wider angle lens on the Xperia Z3, so you can see more in the image. And sometimes I could see that the Xperia Z3 maybe resolved a bit more detail than the Xperia Z2. I could see a little bit more sharpness. I think that people are going to be happy for the most part between both of them, and I don't recommend this being an upgrade, really, if you have the Xperia Z2 just because of the camera. Unless you absolutely need that high-sensitive 12,800 ISO mode. Now, in terms of performance of both of these devices, we've got just a little bit of an upgrade on the Xperia Z3. This is the MSM 8974AC variant of the Snapdragon 801 SoC. And this is the MSM 8974AB version. So really it just comes down to 4 Crate cores clocked at 2.5 gigahertz versus 2.3 gigahertz, and an Adreno 330 GPU 578 megahertz versus 550 megahertz. In all practicalities and in everyday usage, it's really hard to tell a difference, although when I do benchmarks, we do pull ahead on everything pretty much on the Xperia Z3. Just a hair though, just ever so slightly. We see a little bit better performance on the Xperia Z3, but it's nothing to write home about, and it's not a reason why I would jump from the Z2 to the Z3 either. Now, as for some miscellaneous differences, the Xperia Z3 is able to play back high-resolution audio. The Z3 was released with PlayStation 4 Remote Play, and the Z2, and pretty much all of the Z family I've seen, the most current Z family, is able to do the same thing now, including the compacts. We do have stereo front-facing speakers on both of these devices, and I have to say that the Xperia Z3 sounds just a little bit louder and a little bit more clear to me. But I wouldn't count this as one of the essential huge differences, just something else to note here. So that is all I want to say about these two devices right now. Let me know what you think, if the Xperia Z3 is a good update, or if you'd rather wait until the Xperia Z4. Personally, if I had the Xperia Z2, I would not bother upgrading to the Xperia Z3. If I did not have an Xperia phone and I didn't want to wait for the Xperia Z4 to come out, I think that the Xperia Z3 is a nicer looking, nicer feeling device. I do like that it gets brighter, although it is on the bluish side, on the very, very bluish side, but I can try to compensate a little bit with the white balanced sliders. Still, over the Xperia Z2, if I had to choose between both of them, just at random notice, I would pick the Xperia Z3. So please let me know what you think. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Also, again, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. You can follow me on patreon.com/Erica Griffin. If you want to contribute any little bit there, that really helps me. It helps me get devices just like these. So give me your opinions in the comment section below, and have a good night, everyone.